Welcome back to Motivate Yourself. Today, we're putting your flag knowledge to the test. In this quiz, you'll see hints that represent each country. Your challenge is to match the hint with the flag. Are you ready to show off your geography skills? Let's dive in and see how many you can get right. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and tap that notification bell so you're always in on the latest quizzes and fun facts. Don't miss out. Good luck. All right, here's a new challenge. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint. Great Wall. If you guessed China, that's amazing. Here's another one. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint. Spices and diversity. If you guessed India, that's absolutely right. Great job. Next up, which country does this flag represent? Hint. Amazon rainforest. If you said Brazil, you got it. Can you guess this one? Which country does this flag represent? Hint, red square. If you guessed Russia, you nailed it. Here's an exciting one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, sushi culture. If you said Japan, fantastic job. Here we go. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Oktoberfest. If you guessed Germany, that's spot on. All right, let's keep it going. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, historic landmarks. If you guessed United Kingdom, you're absolutely correct. Ready for another? Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Eiffel Tower. If you said France, great work. Try this one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, pasta and pizza. If you guessed Italy, you're right on target. Here's a sweet one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, maple syrup. If you said Canada, excellent job. Let's dive into the ocean. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Great Barrier Reef. If you guessed Australia, that's amazing. Which country does this flag represent? Your hint is tacos and ancient ruins. If you said Mexico, fantastic work. Can you guess this one? Which country does this flag represent? Hint, diverse wildlife. If you guessed South Africa, well done. Here's a tropical one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, thousands of islands. If you said Indonesia, awesome guess. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, unique blend of cultures. If you said Turkey, that's absolutely right. All right, here's another. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, oil riches. If you guessed Saudi Arabia, nice job. Here's a popular one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, K-pop sensation. If you said South Korea, you're spot on. Let's keep it going. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, flamenco dancing. If you guessed Spain, that's correct. Dance your way to the answer. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, tango dancing. If you said Argentina, you got it right. Think of beautiful flowers. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, canals and tulips. If you guessed Netherlands, great job. Here's a delicious one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, street food paradise. If you said Thailand, you're absolutely right. All right, let's go. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, faux and vibrant culture. If you guessed Vietnam, that's the correct answer. Time for some coffee. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, coffee country. If you said Colombia, amazing work. Here's a historical one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, rich history. If you guessed Poland, nice job. Next up, which country does this flag represent? Hint, ancient pyramids. If you said Egypt, that's right. And for this one, which country does this flag represent? Hint, Persian heritage. If you guessed Iran, you're spot on. Another cultural one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, diverse cultures. If you said Nigeria, fantastic. Here's a blend of cultures. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, cultural diversity. If you guessed Malaysia, you're absolutely right. All right, here's a new challenge. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, beautiful islands. If you guessed Philippines, you got it right. Great job. Think creatively. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, innovation and design. If you said Sweden, well done. Here's a classic. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, birthplace of democracy. If you guessed Greece, you nailed it. Let's go on a safari. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, wildlife safaris. If you said Kenya, awesome answer. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, explorer's legacy. If you guessed Portugal, that's absolutely right. Here's a sweet one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, chocolate and waffles. If you said Belgium, fantastic choice. Think architecture. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, stunning architecture. If you guessed Czech Republic, great job. Here's a magical one. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, beautiful castles. If you said Romania, you're spot on. Relax and refresh. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, thermal baths. If you guessed Hungary, well done. Time to uncork. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, wine production. If you said Chile, you got it right. Get cozy. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, rich textiles. If you guessed Bangladesh, nice work. Here's a desert vibe. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Sahara Desert. If you said Algeria, you're correct. Time to shop. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, vibrant souks. If you guessed Morocco, amazing. Head to the mountains. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Machu Picchu. If you said Peru, fantastic answer. Let's go high. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, gateway to the Himalayas. If you guessed Nepal, you're absolutely right. Time to celebrate. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, vibrant culture. If you said Dominican Republic, nice guess. Ancient wonders await. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, ancient ruins. If you guessed Jordan, you're correct. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, vast steppes. If you said Kazakhstan, you got it. Think green. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, tea plantations. If you guessed Sri Lanka, you're right on. Wildlife calling. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, wildlife and safaris. If you said Tanzania, you got it right. Time for finance. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, wealthy banking sector. If you guessed Luxembourg, great job. Think smooth and smoky. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, cigars. If you guessed Cuba, you're spot on. Feel the rhythm. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, reggae music. If you said Jamaica, amazing answer. Learning time. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, education system. If you guessed Finland, you're absolutely correct. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, coffee origin. If you guessed Ethiopia, great job. Think resources. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, oil and diamonds. If you said Angola, well done. Modern marvels ahead. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, modern architecture. If you guessed Azerbaijan, that's spot on. Time to look back. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Soviet history. If you said Belarus, you're absolutely correct. Ancient traditions. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, ancient Christianity. If you guessed Armenia, you're spot on. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, historic conflicts. If you guessed Vietnam, you nailed it. Step back in time. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Mayan ruins. If you said Honduras, that's correct. Ancient civilizations await. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, ancient civilization. If you guessed Iraq, amazing. Significant history. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, historical significance. If you said Syria, you got it. Oil-rich lands. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, oil reserves. If you guessed Libya, you're absolutely right. Let's go modern. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, wealth and modern architecture. If you guessed Kuwait, fantastic. Look at the skyline. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, modern skyline. If you said Qatar, you're right on. Think volcanic. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, volcanoes and lakes. If you guessed Nicaragua, spot on. Historical depth. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, historical significance. If you said Malta, you're right. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, Silk Road heritage. If you guessed Uzbekistan, great work. Feel the island vibe. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, tropical islands. If you guessed Vanuatu, well done. Dive into beauty. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, coral reefs. If you guessed Fiji, amazing. Think paradise. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, tropical paradise. If you guessed Solomon Islands, spot on. Sunny vibes ahead. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, beautiful beaches. If you said Barbados, nice job. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, unique islands. If you guessed Comoros, well done. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, remote islands. If you guessed Kiribati, you're correct. Picture this. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, beautiful atolls. If you guessed Tuvalu, nice work. Take a guess. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Lake Malawi. If you guessed Malawi, fantastic. Mountains await. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Mountain Kingdom. If you guessed Lesotho, that's correct. Coastal beauty. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, coastal beauty. If you guessed Mozambique, great job! Time for the beaches. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, stunning beaches. If you guessed Seychelles, well done! Rich in resources. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, rich natural resources. If you said Guinea, amazing answer. Historic moments ahead. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, historical significance. If you guessed Liberia, that's correct. Feel the music. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, music and culture. If you said Burkina Faso, you're right. Rich heritage. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, rich cultural heritage. If you guessed Mali, fantastic job. Strategic location. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, strategic location. If you guessed Djibouti, you got it. Think nature. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, natural beauty. If you said Central African Republic, great choice. Desert landscapes. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, desert landscapes. If you guessed Chad, that's spot on. Cocoa production. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, cocoa production. If you guessed Togo, nice work. Think unique. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, unique landscapes. If you said Namibia, you got it. Newest country alert. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, youngest nation. If you guessed South Sudan, you're absolutely right. Which country does this flag represent? Here's your hint, unique wildlife. If you guessed Zimbabwe, well done. Pure happiness. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, gross national happiness. If you guessed Bhutan, you nailed it. Biodiversity awaits. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, biodiversity. If you said Costa Rica, fantastic choice. Tropical bliss. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, natural beauty. If you guessed St. Lucia, you're spot on. Paradise Island. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, tropical paradise. If you guessed St. Kitts and Nevis, amazing job. Caribbean charm. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Caribbean charm. If you guessed Antigua and Barbuda, well done. Spice it up. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Spice Island. If you guessed Grenada, you got it. Marine life. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, marine life. If you guessed Marshall Islands, that's absolutely right. Picture the Pacific. Which country does this flag represent? Hint, Pacific Islands. If you guessed Micronesia, fantastic work.